We're here for the season opening Monaco Grand Prix. And on pole position, Sophia, followed by her teammate Jocelyn. Defending champion, getting yet another pole position. See if she can do it all again this season. Third on the grid is Anushka. Fourth is Elise. Fifth Brandon. Sixth Jemima. Seventh Yan. Eighth Angel. Ninth Addison. 10th is Torren. This is a double length and double points race. 2 pit stops. And when those 5 lights go out, we'll be racing. And they're off, and it's a good start from Jocelyn. Challenge Sophia into turn 1. Looks like Sophia has it covered. So it's Sophia from Jocelyn into the first corner, with Anushka defending her 3rd place. 2 Royal Deluxe cars pulling out a bit of a gap. Meanwhile, Jemima, Angel and Torren have all gained placing. It's looking like that side of the grid got off to a much better start in general. All of the drivers in even-numbered positions having a much better time. Coming out of the tunnel then on lap 1, it's Sophia leading, half a second ahead of her teammate. This is a very difficult track to overtake, but the 2 pit stops in this race will provide lots of opportunities for position change. There's the 2 Royal Deluxe cars pulling out a huge gap, 2.5, and we're only 2/3 of the way around the first lap. Further down the order, the 2 Pentacoron cars have a very good start after a disappointing qualifying. They're up to 18th and 20th. But coming on to lap 2 is Sophia, who now leads by over a second. Continuing to extend that gap over Jocelyn. As Shafkins makes a bit of a mistake. Touches that outside wall, but he doesn't seem to have taken any damage. Shafkins, driving for the new Shabby team, is run by last season's champion Sophia. It'll be interesting to see how they do this season. They didn't have the greatest qualifying, but of course, being a new team, it's not one of the most difficult tracks in Formula I. It's not easy. He's running ahead the 2 Spurs Are Bad cars, who were very consistent in the series that they ran in, if not especially quick. It seems like they're continuing that here to stay. Coming on to lap 3, it is Sophia who now leads by 1.7 seconds. The 2 Royal Deluxe cars pulling out a comfortable lead early on. Anushka now 5 seconds adrift. Anushka's teammate Jemima looking to try and get past Elise. Stepping with the closest battle in the top positions. The gap is less than a second. And as I've just said, very difficult track to pass. Meanwhile, further back, it looks like Brandon is struggling a bit. He's 10 seconds off the lead already. Seemingly holding up Angel and didn't have the best start. Perhaps he's running more fuel than cars around. Is that a puff of smoke I saw from Yan just then? Seems like he's going fine. Need to keep an eye on that. As Mary is out in the Pentacoron. So Pentacoron's bad start of the season, it's even worse. Mary is out of the race. And it seems like Mary has some kind of problem, perhaps a puncture. The right rear tyre quite clearly gone down, and that's a very unfortunate way to end the Monaco Grand Prix for Mary. Sophia sets the fastest lap. She starts lap 4. Now leading by 2.6 seconds. 3rd place still Anushka. Pulling away from Elise, but not anywhere near the 2 Royal Deluxe cars, who if anything seem to be even further ahead of the competition than they were last season. Here's our top 10. Here's Verdang running in 12th place behind Omri. Very disappointing qualifying. I was expecting Yada to be near the front with the performances we saw from Verdang last season. We were expecting their new car to be very competitive. It doesn't look that way. Currently he's stuck behind Omri, unable to get past. It's going to be a long uphill road to even get any points. Points are now only given to the top 10 position. We'll see what Verdang can do. Here is the race for 4th place. Jemima against Elise. These two already 13 seconds adrift of the leaders. There's a lot of points at stake here. This is a double points race, of course. 20 points will be given for 4th place, as much as you'd get for a win normally. And it does seem like Elise has pulled out a bit more of a gap over Jemima at this stage. Here's Addison, who at this point is already looking like he's holding up quite a bit of a train. Behind him is Torin, Omri, Verdang, Shafkin. Then a bit further back we have the 2 Spurs of bad cars. Shafkin's teammate Abdul. 17th is Omri's new teammate Levy. 18th is Morgan, his team that hasn't come up with a name yet. 19th is Mia. 20th is Vrish, having a very disappointing Yadar. 21st is Erica, the last of the cars running afraid. It's still Sophia who leads, now leading by over 6 seconds. Sophia pulling out more than a second a lap over her teammate, and 2 seconds a lap over the rest of the competition. This is a absolutely dominant drive from Sophia so far. We'll see whether she can keep it up. It's a long way still to go. As Sophia's coming in for a very early pit stop. Everyone has to make 2 pit stops in this race. Let's see how quickly they can get these tyres changed and fuel put in. Jocelyn goes through into the lead. She will drop behind Anushka as well. It's a question of where will she come out relative to Elise and Jemima. That's a very quick pit stop from Sophia. There is Elise, and she goes through. So Sophia is down into 4th place. Of course, no one else has made their pit stops yet, so she does still have the advantage over these cars. But she won't have wanted to be held up by the much slower horsepower car. This could cause problems for her later. And this is Jocelyn's moment to set a few quick laps to try and close down that gap to Sophia. The gap is currently 11.4 seconds. We'll keep an eye on whether that extends, or whether Sophia can get past Elise. And here's Jocelyn, also coming in for a fairly early. So this partly explains the sheer pace that the 2 Royal Deluxe cars had. It does seem like they were running a light fuel load in the early stages. Anushka goes through into the lead. Sophia will go past. That is a slower pit stop from Jocelyn. And that may drop her behind Jan. Indeed it does. So there's a few cars between Jocelyn and Sophia at this stage, as Jemima has retired from the race with ignition problem. So technical problems for your mum already. Jemima is out as they hover her car the track. She sets the fastest lap somehow while doing it. That doesn't make any sense. With no time as well. I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see that. So Verdang made an early pit stop as well. This makes perfect sense to me. He was held up in traffic behind us, and now we can get out in some clear air and set some quick laps. And now we'll see what the true pace of this Yadar car is. So Anushka leads now, nearly 6 seconds ahead of Elise, who remains ahead of Sophia. Sophia not really looking to get past this stage, keeping a consistent gap, which is very much the sensible thing to do here. She doesn't need to make an overtake here. Her race is with Jocelyn. And there are several cars between her and Jocelyn, who's down in 6th place right now. She kind of does need, at least if she wants to have any chance of challenging her teammate. This is assuming Jan doesn't hit and get out of her way. But that gap is still at around 6 seconds. Severe. As Brandon seems to... Oh, Brandon's off! Brandon is off the track. The winner of the last race of last season. And it looks like... I'm not sure whether this was a problem or some kind of mistake. He's definitely got a lot of damage to that car. Lost his front wing at the very least. Can he get it out of there? It's a very tight space. And he is dropping right to the back of the order. And this is absolutely going to ruin Brandon's race. Let's see what happens. As Brandon just carrying a bit too much speed into the corner, perhaps? There seemed to be some kind of bump. Whether he hit a bump, or whether that's some kind of failure on the car, remains to be seen. You can see he just didn't. It's a very strange incident, isn't it? In any case, even if you can still get that car going, it's going to be very hard to score points from. Here's Angel, who has made her pit stop, trying to get past Abdullah in the shabby car. Can't do it into the chicane. And meanwhile, Elise is pitting, so that will release Sophia. We'll see what kind of time she can do on those fresh tyres. So where is Elise going to drop back to? As Omri comes into the pit as well. It's going to be very interesting to see where he is going to be relative to Verdang, who has made his first pit stop. Is Brandon getting his car repaired? Elise comes out of the pit in 6th position, ahead of her teammate, who is still trying to get past Abdullah, who's yet to stop. Omri then, slow pit stop, 7.6 seconds. Where's that going to be relative to Verdang? Torren goes through, but he remains ahead of Verdang, who is currently stuck in a train behind his teammate and Shaft. That's not worked out at all well. And Anushka is out. Anushka has lost a wheel and is out of the Monaco Grand Prix. A disaster for your mum then. Both of their cars out of this race. Let's see how that happens. Coming through the very fast swimming pool chicane. And Anushka touches the wall at the first part of the chicane. And that unsettles the car. Means she can't slow down enough for the second part. Or perhaps she already had suspension down. In any case, she hits the outside wall again and loses that wheel. So that means Sophia retakes the lead. She was always going to do that, of course. Anushka was yet to pit. And the race resumes with a Royal Deluxe 1-2. We have some of the remaining cars making pit stops. Decent pit stop from Jan, 6.2 seconds. Elise goes back into 3rd. Jan is now up to 4th. And he comes out ahead of Angel. Courtesy, of course, of Abdullah holding her up. And Verdang is in the pits again. Verdang having to make a very early second pit stop. Is this for some kind of technical problem? He's only just made his first pit stop. I wouldn't have thought he would make his second this early. Still got 18 laps left to run in this race. So it looks like Yadar has had some kind of problem with that car. And Verdang had to make a second stop, and that's dropped him right to the back of those that are still racing. So Sophia now leads ahead of Jocelyn by 9 seconds. 23 seconds back to Elise in the horsepower. Royal Deluxe absolutely destroying. Abdullah comes in for a fairly late first pit. And it's 6.3. Not bad for a completely new team. This might drop him outside the top 10. Here comes Vrish. Vrish has gained a lot of places through that pit stop sequence. It's because he hasn't actually made his pit stop yet. That explains it. Well, Vrish has held up a lot of people through this pit stops. In that case, He will drop well outside when he makes his stop, and it is looking like a very bad race for Yada. It's going to be very difficult for them to score any points at all. Shafkin running in 10th place, looking to score a point in the first race for the Shabby team. And Josh looking to take that place away from him. Here is Josh then, coming out of the tunnel. And he goes for a late move. And there's contact with Shafkins. He goes around the outside, and he's taken the position. That's a very interesting move there from Josh, but it seems to have worked. Let's have a look at that again. So here we are, looking back from Shafkin's car. And Josh, very late on the brakes, gets into the side of Shafkins. Shafkins forced to go across and cut the corner. That slows him down a lot, and lets Josh through. Are the stewards going to investigate that move? It's definitely a dodgy one from Josh, but you can get away a lot with these cars. Shouldn't be any damage. Let's have a look at it again on board with Josh. Makes contact multiple times with the side of that Shabby car. As Vrish does finally come in, very quick pit stop to make his first pit stop. So everyone has now made their first of their 2 pit stops in this race. Vrish will be down in 16th, basically last place, ahead of his teammate. It's looking like the biggest gainers in that first set of pit stops were the 2 Spurs of Bad car. Both gaining 6 places, or Josh gaining 5 places for that move on Shafkin. So the 2 Spurs of Bad cars now up into the points paying position. Torren and Omri, so both gaining 4. Part of that, of course, is explained by crashes in front of him. But even so, things are looking good for Jan and Angel, also gaining a few places. But I think that's entirely explained. Retirements of Anushka, Brand, Addison too, we didn't see that. So, it is Jocelyn, 9.5. So Sophia's not really extending the gap by the same kind of amount per lap. Sophia definitely calmed down the pace that she showed in the early stages. The 2 Real Deluxe, a huge amount, 27 seconds. At this rate, they're going to lap most of the other cars. We have 18 cars still running. There's a long way to go. We've just passed half distance. As you see Jan tapping the outside wall there, just outside of the Casino Square corner. You won't want to do that too. Seems to have got away with it this time. Increase the gap to at least out to 5.3 seconds. As Jocelyn is in for her second pit stop. So first round of pit stops, it was Sophia that pitted first. This time it's Jocelyn. How quick is this going to be? 7.1. So it looks like Jocelyn this time is getting the slower pit stops. Last season it was fairly consistent. As Jan is out of the race. Jan is out for Peaky Drivers, that same place that Anushka crashed out. And it seems like it was an accident rather than a car failure for Jan. See how that happened. Is this the same mistake that Anushka made? Almost identical. Taps the wall, the first part of the chicane, and then goes straight into it, the second part. So both Peaky Drivers cars out of... And they will not be happy with that. Of course, this race being double points is extremely important in the challenge. Doing well here can make or break your season. Angel comes into the pits for her second pit stop. Starting the season off with a double retirement as your mum and peaky drivers have, pretty much is enough to end any chance. What makes it very difficult to come back and win the champion. As Sophia is now coming up to lap Da. Both of their cars, terrible race. Are they gonna obey the blue flags and let Sophia through? It's not technically in the rules that you have to. You won't be penalised if you don't let, but it's normally seen the courteous thing to do. Verdang doesn't seem to be interested in letting Sophia past, however. So Sophia's going to have to try and find a way to get past with a racing move. Verdang being held up by Vrish at this stage. They're running in 11th and 12th, so of course they haven't made their second yet. And the critical thing is here, that if Verdang doesn't let Sophia through, then the two of them are going to be holding Sophia up quite a lot. And this is allowing Jocelyn to catch up, as Erica is seemingly pulling off the track. She is, and she's out of the race. Her first race in Formula I. So Jocelyn, yeah, closing up by 1.7 seconds in the middle sector alone. And if she can get that gap down to like 16 or so, 17 seconds, Sophia could be in danger of being passed in the pit stop. So it's absolutely critical that Sophia gets past these two Yada cars. Jocelyn now just 20.1 seconds behind. And still, Verdang not letting Sophia pass. The gap to Jocelyn now down to 19 seconds. So Sophia is in trouble if this continues. We've heard that she's being called into the pits at the end of this lap. And I think she will have just enough of a gap to stay ahead of Jocelyn, but it's going to be close. Has Verdang ruined Sophia's race? We will see. Jocelyn is coming through the swimming pool chicane. Has 3 corners left to go of the lap. Through the Raskas, Anthony Nogues, and Sophia has had a slow pit stop, 8.8 seconds. Is that going to lose her the lead? It has. Sophia comes out of the pits, well behind Jocelyn, as a result of being held up badly, and a slow pit stop has reduced her over 9-second lead to nothing. Jocelyn is now the race leader of this race, and of course, now, with no more pit stops to go, Sophia wants to regain the lead of this race. She will have to do it with an overtake on the track. So Jocelyn definitely in the best place to win this race now. Quite remarkable, the 2 Royal Deluxe cars are still in first, despite having made 2 pit stops when most of the cars behind have made 1. As Elise comes into the pits, has a very big gap over Omri, 4th. And it's looking like with Yan out of the race, her main competition, as long as Elise can keep it on the track, she should be in position for an easy 3rd place. And a lot of points. Omri, Brandon's a lap down. Kim, Dulla, all yet their second pit stops. Angel being held up a bit. Big car. Is this going to allow Torin a chance to go for a move? We'll see. As Kim is out of the race. It looks like she's parked it with some kind of technical problem. Indeed, it's a transmission problem. So, as Kim is pushed off the track, she is out of this race. And it was looking like she was going to get a solid load of points, so definitely not what she would have wanted today. Here's the battle for the lead there. Sophia has not given up. She's closed that gap down to about 3 seconds. When she came out of the pits, it It's now barely half a second. Can Sofia get back past her teammate to retake the lead here? 8.5 laps to go. She has time, but around this very narrow track, the space, as Angel is out. And is that the same mistake that we've seen from Jan and Anushka already? An accident in the swimming pool chicane. Let's see. Does she touch the outside wall here? She does. And straight into the wall in the second part. An Angel who was looking like she was going to get a good load of points is out. As Verdang comes into the pits, we have 13 cars still running in this race. And that means that a lot of people that were in not so great positions in the early stages will be creeping their way into the lower regions of the points places. Currently, that means that Levy is running in P9, Morgan in P9. Even the Yadar cars might get a few points if there's any more crashes. Currently run 11th and 12th. Here is our battle for the lead. Sofia pretty much as close as you can get around here. Question is, where will she make the overtake? One is possible. As Sofia is out! Sofia is out of the race! That looked like some kind of technical problem. The car just went straight on it. And such a shame, because it's really robbed us as a chance to see the two Royal Deluxe cars battling. And that is the puncture for Sofia. Jocelyn is now left with a comfortable lead of 28 seconds ahead of Elise, who will now move into second place for the horsepower. Omri third, but he's still yet to make a pit stop. So it will be Torin. Unless Omri has enough of a gap, I actually think he just about might. It's between those two for the last place on the podium. Omri coming into the pits. How quick will this pit stop be? Looking for anything around the 6 seconds region being alright, and that's 5.8. It's a very good pit stop. And it looks like he's going to be well ahead of Torrent. So, third place currently for Omri. He finished with a podium finish in the last season. Can he start one? The double points podium here in the first race of season 2. Here's Verdang, still unable to get past his team. After making that extra pit stop, he ended up behind and stuck there ever since. Vrish now running in 10th place and in a position to score 2 points if he can finish that. Just 12 cars still running in this race. Most of them at this point very spread out. So it's looking like our race order is going to be something close to this. These two is definitely the closest we have on-track race for position at this stage. Look at the long list of retirements we've had in this race. Many of them crashing out, many more with mechanical problems. Of course, this is the first race of the season. A lot of teams bringing new cars. A lot of them completely with very little testing. So they are completely unknown. Expect a lot of mechanics. Of course, this is one of the most difficult tracks in the ride. So it all comes together to make one of the hardest conditions to start the season. And to make it a bit harder, it seems to be starting to rain. See some damp patches forming on the track. One of the Yadar cars making a mistake, going in, touching the wall there. And there's definitely some damp parts of forming here. Is there going to be a last twist in this race? Very few laps left to go, so no one will want a wet tyre. Unless they absolutely have to. Of course, if you're Jocelyn or Elise, you have more than a pit stop's margin in front of the car, so you can afford to really do what you... But everyone else will not want to or risk losing a lot of places. The two shabby cars, both still running in their first races, now in 6th and 7th place. A very strong race for them. Josh, up 5th. He is under investigation by the stewards, of course, for that move that he made on Shafkins. And we're hearing that they've given him a 10-second penalty. So 10 seconds will be added to his time at the end of this race. We'll see if that costs him any places. So here's our race leader. 3 laps to go. It's Jocelyn Relda. Comfortable gap of 28 seconds. She comes up to lap the two shabby cars. With the track getting wetter and wetter, it does seem like they might have to go onto wet tyres if it gets any worse. If they've got enough temperature in them, they might just be able to keep these slick tyres going. As Abdullah not making it easy for Jocelyn. She gets past him. She just slides in through that tight corner. The track getting very slippery at this point, and the tyres are very worn. Of course, Jocelyn's been driving on them 12 laps. So these are not easy conditions at all. But all Jocelyn needs to do, a comfortable margin of 33 seconds, is just keep it on the track. Same goes just about everyone. Not really expecting any position changes at this stage. Possible exception of this battle between Yadav. Vrish still holding on to 10th place, but he taps the outside wall at the exit of Casino Square, and that lets the Dang through. The Dang moves into position ahead of his teammate. And that is for 2 points. Every point counts. That might end up being critical at the end. As Josh coming in for a very late pit stop. Is this some kind of problem? No, he's coming in for wet tyres. We said they might have to. Jocelyn, Shafkin's also doing the same. Abdullah stays out. So some of them coming in for wet tyres. Just to be safe. Jocelyn has a comfortable margin over everyone. So she can definitely get away with making that pit stop. And indeed, I think that's definitely the right thing to do. Intermediate tyres for all of them. Intermediate tyres go on for Levy as well. On the last lap of the race, they're deciding that the conditions are just too dangerous and they're having to come in. Is anyone going to try and stick it out on the slick tyres on this final lap of the race? Elise goes through. She hasn't made a pit stop. Will Omri? Omri might lose out to Torin if he does. And he realises this and stays out. Can they keep it on the track? There's a lot of spray, a lot of standing water, and it's going to be very difficult on these dry tyres to keep them pointed in the right direction. As Torin does come into the... Of course, Jocelyn's released a lot of people that were lapped, and they're now on the lead lap. They'll have to do an extra lap of this, which makes things a lot more difficult for them when the track is this wet. We'll see if that changes anything in the closing stages. But it is Jocelyn who's coming through the final corners of the lap. Coming out of the final corner, it's going to be Jocelyn that wins the Monaco Grand Prix from Royal Deluxe. In second place will be Elise if she keeps it on the road, as Josh has passed Abdullah, who has kept it on the dry tyres. Let's see how that happens. Around the outside turn. Incredible. And you can see just how much more traction he has going up the hill. The grip difference between the wet and the dry tyres at this stage is absolutely huge. So Elise coming through the final corner, keeping it on the track, on those slick tyres, to take second place here at the Monaco Grand Prix. As the Dang making a pit stop after the race finished. I'm very confused at that. Perhaps he didn't realise it was the last lap. Omri through the final corner to take the last spot on the podium. Team Tap. Fourth is Torren. Fifth is Josh, but he does have that time pen. And that might cost him a few places. It looks like Abdullah and Morgan, who have stayed out on the slick tyres, they might stick within 10 seconds of it. Let's watch what the gaps are. It's currently 3 seconds to Abdullah, 7 seconds to Morgan. But of course, Josh is going a lot quicker. Through the final corner then. And Josh will cross the line in place. The gap to Abdullah is 5.6 seconds. So he will lose that. And he also loses out to Morgan. Morgan 9.8 seconds behind Josh. So with that penalty, Josh will drop to 7. That was a very costly move. But in the end, it was a very simple race for Jocelyn. She never had to defend against her teammate in the closing. And that left her with a comfortable margin of 26 seconds, despite making